you filled us in on what you do. But the gaming question now comes up. So, what is your gaming origin story? How old were you? What game was it? And who was it that got you in there? Mom, dad, uncle, brother, cousin, best friend down the street? And just tell us that story.
Yeah, man. Since I can remember, it was always N64,
Mhm.
but a little even before that, my grandpa had Nintendo, Duck Hunt, the
Mhm.
Mario, and I still remember playing that. Me and my cousins and my sister. That was always something fun to play at Grandpa's house. We got to pull it out every once in a while, and I mean that's really one of my first core gaming memories.
Mm.
And then I upgraded a little bit to the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1. So that Crash Bandicoot, man, that will
Ooh.
always be my, being on the shores of Insanity Beach is one of my favorite memories from that first game. He washes up on shore,
Yep,
and that game was low key really hard.
it
That
was.
that first one for being a first game. Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it.
Welcome to Amon Green's Gamers Lounge. I'm your host, Amon Green, and my man 20 Grand John Audius, he is on spring break now. So I'm gonna bring in our guest a little sooner because he's gonna help me out with this whole show today. Our good friend and our media guy, man, Jeremy. How you doing, man?
Hey, great to be here, man. Great to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, like I mentioned, John is on spring break with his daughter and wife and doing some fun things. They're traveling. Forgot he texted me where they were going, but regardless, they're going to have fun. I know that much. So I will put all the little fun little details up here and get things started. So from last week's show, I was just talking with Jeremy off stream. So welcome everybody into the show. We're gonna talk about myself, talk about Jeremy, bites, and then have that great fun conversation of this or that. But like I said, just been busy since last week's show, traveling back and forth between here. I say I was coming back from Boston, went to like a college esports um, convention, college esports expo, and then E3 or PAX East, and then now back here in Lincoln, Nebraska, Jeremy. So that's what I've been up to, and I know you've been kind of helping us out for how long has it been? I was trying to think about it. I'm like, how long has it been? Has it been
About,
almost a year?
well, it's been quite a while.
Right. So Jeremy, man, he is a guy like as we said, jack of all trades. He knows a lot about what he helps us with. He does a lot of our all our clips on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter, and he does between doing our own thing, he does his own as well. But he's born in Guatemala City, Guatemala, and then raised in Wisconsin. Now that's a special combination. I don't. You're definitely one of many that very few that I know with that combination there. So he had obviously become, I say, a Midwest Packer fan there a little bit, probably, Jeremy,
Oh,
right?
always 100%. I am definitely an owner of the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers.
There, spoken like a true Packer fan right there. So he has also experience in content creation. He's an historian, which I love because I was a geography major, and obviously part of geography we study history of the world, of United States, of Europe, of Asia, Australia, South America. All the parts, India, of the planet that has been habitated by us humans. So a curator or archivist, why the average historian, Jeremy. What's
So
what
one
was
of the
what's the name? What was the planning behind that tag, your handle in the social media space?
Yeah, man, the average historian kind of came from the fact that I feel like I'm kind of the average guy. Uh, a lot of people joke background's education as well. I give those favorite social studies teacher vibes when I talk to people. And then they realize that I have a master's degree in public history. I
Right.
play rugby. If you're from Wisconsin, it's kind
Oh
of
man,
good chance
you
to drink
speaking my
beer.
language right there. Rugby. Woo, I love it.
You can talk about it. Just I can talk about just about anything and get along with just about anyone. So that's really where the average historian part came from. Those kind of experiences, that has led to kind of extraordinary experiences, combining my love for history and of course sports. So it's been a great ride so far.
Okay, you got rugby, man. So how are you still playing it now?
Yeah, yeah, man. So little check-in. I'm used to how the flow of the show goes. So last weekend I was actually in
Right.
Tennessee playing in a tournament there with the Wisconsin Rugby Club. My club, the Milwaukee Barbarians. We didn't
Oh, I
send a
played
team.
against y'all. Must it was like so I did it back in like 2014,
Okay,
2013. So I did play against those guys. I know
yeah,
those guys. They're
yeah.
good
So
good
if
team.
you ever want to come out of retirement, the Milwaukee Barbos will always have you. If you want to throw on those cleats one more time, we'd love to have you. But did that
You gotta
tournament
talk to
this
my
weekend.
agent, Marie Green. You gotta talk to my wife there. She's like, "No, you did." Like, she didn't even want me doing that. She's like, "What are you doing? Playing rugby? You just got out of football. Now you have no pads on?" I said, "Babe, but I just gotta, I got a little itch. I gotta scratch it. It's
Hey,
fun." What position were you on the pitch?
I play hooker number two,
Oh, okay.
number two on the pitch, but number one in your heart.
I like it. He's been watching a lot of games there. Oh man, so let me see what we got here. So professionally, what I say you worked with several institutions ranging from a historic photography museum to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Is that one in Canton, correct? And
Correct,
the College Football Hall of Fame. Oh, so how was that? Because I mean, I've been to those. I haven't been to the College Football Hall of Fame, and I think that's in Georgia, right?
correct. Atlanta.
Atlanta. All right. So how was working and just being a fan of both of obviously the game, working with those institutions. Yeah.
Man, it was an absolutely incredible experience. In 2016, I was fortunate enough to be an intern at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And 2016 was also the year Brett Lorenzo Favre was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
So we probably walked
So,
past each other because I was there. I was at his induction in Canton. I went to it, so they had a little party for all his friends and family, teammates, and everything. So we might have just kind of did one of those boats in
oh,
the night, walk past,
we
didn't even know.
we definitely might have walked past each other. I'm sure I was running around like a little ant trying to make sure everything was going according to plan. But
Right,
after you get to do something like that, being a kid from Wisconsin, having your favorite quarterback be inducted into the Hall of Fame,
right, right.
it really made the kind of idea and dream a reality. I was fortunate enough to go to school at the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire,
Okay, up north, right, a
and
little bit up north.
the guy who started the Patriots Hall of Fame, Brett Hensel, he's now the curator for the Packers Hall of Fame.
Oh,
We went
okay.
to the same grad school. Our professors kind of saw us on the same trajectory, so they reached out to him. That we got in contact, and he helped me get the internship at the Pro Hall.
Nice, nice. So yeah, about doing your work, being ready to go, but then it doesn't matter. It doesn't I said it helps a little when you know somebody in the space. I tell people that all the time, or I get asked that question. How do you get there and how do you get to how you get that job? And I'm like, well, for one, a lot of it in any industry is basically all who you know. And then once it is who you know, you get in there, then it's about knowing the job. So make sure the reason they brought you in that you're able to do it and do it at a high level. So you done archivist for the Wisconsin Black History Society. So that's in Milwaukee, right?
Correct, correct.
Yep, I've
So,
seen it. Yeah, because I've always drove down to Milwaukee a lot, probably over 1,000 times in my life, being living in Wisconsin for 22 years, and I would see the Wisconsin Black History Museum. That was like right before you hit the interchange going from downtown going into taking the freeway into South Milwaukee. So tell us
correct.
about that experience there.
Yeah, so it's been an incredible experience. I moved on from the College Football Hall of Fame, where I was the historian and curator in Atlanta, Georgia, for the last 4 years.
Mhm.
I found this new opportunity. Being from Wisconsin, I had always realized I was ready and I wanted to eventually move back to Wisconsin. But the beauty in this and the beauty of the experience is it was much more a choose your own adventure a type of position instead of with the museum field. It's very competitive. A
Mhm.
lot of times you are signing 8 months, 9 months, 10-month contracts to stay a little while and knowing it's going to be up. The clock starts when you start.
Right.
This opportunity I was able to kind of feel out, and it was a really exciting, new experience being back where I wanted to be,
Mhm.
but having the ability to keep the sports interest and museum interests alive and well.
With some of the other questioning, with you and I knowing each other already, the show format. So I was like, get you right in for the check-in side of it. But now for the some of the fun questioning, you answered some great questions already. You filled us in on what you do. But the gaming question now comes up. So what is your gaming origin story? How old were you? What game was it? And who was it that got you in there? Mom, dad, uncle, brother, cousin, best friend down the street? And just tell us that story.
Yeah, man. Since I can remember, it was always N64,
Mm.
but a little even before that, my grandpa had a Nintendo Duck Hunt, the
Ooh.
Mario, and I still remember playing that. Me and my cousins and my sister. That was always something fun to play at Grandpa's house. We got to pull it out every once in a while, and I mean that's really one of my first core gaming memories.
Mhm.
And then I upgraded a little bit to the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1. So that Crash Bandicoot, man, that will always
Ooh.
be my, being on the shores of Insanity Beach is one of my favorite memories from that first game. He washes up on shore,
Yep.
and that game was low key really hard.
It was.
That first one for being a first game.
Yeah, so remind me, 'cause obviously I haven't played Crash in an eternity. What was the plot of the game? What was the
If I recall,
what were you supposed to do?
Doctor Nero or
Yeah, I remember Dr. Nero,
he stole some. I can't even
of
remember.
course.
It's
He's
been
like
it's been
Eggman
so
from,
long.
Sonic. He steals something,
Yep.
so it's always that villain, and it was, he was a comical, kinda like Eggman from, Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was my game too. Crash, that and Sonic,
You're calling
yeah, Crash. Was it originally on N64 or was it on PlayStation as well?
play.
PlayStation 1.
It was on PlayStation.
PlayStation 1. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. I remember
Yeah.
playing that because my brother, that was about the time I got to college, and my older brother, he had it, and we would play it. Every time I came over to his crib, I would turn that on, play a little bit of. I think he always got the games that make you think. I remember on Super Nintendo, he had. Oh no, it might have been on PlayStation. It was IntelliCube, where the blocks were like rolling down, and you had to make
Yeah.
sure you had to eliminate them before your character got knocked off or run over. You had to line them up, kind of like Tetris, where you see the blocks coming down, and
Oh yeah.
you move them to where you need to be, and if you don't do it fast enough, they fall off the map. How long have you been in in the editing and content creating space?
So I know we talked a little bit, earlier
Yep.
before we went live, but right around 2018 is really when I started to get interested. At first, I think like a lot of us with social media, I started looking at it as more of a consumer than I was a practitioner and understanding how it actually worked.
Right.
Instead of just scrolling, I started to kind of learn how it all worked and how I could potentially be a part of it. As we talked, another reason was a little bit of monetary reason. I was trying to not be completely broke with a master's degree while working a full time job in a museum. When you're also still eligible for food stamps, you need to start kind of plotting and finding ways to earn
Right.
that extra income. And man, I just started, spent 40 hours on YouTube and talking to Dr. Google and
Right.
just learning kind of the ropes of it, and that's really how I got started.
Okay. Yeah, because that finding that next step, finding that hustle, it is you find out what you're made of, and you find out what you probably didn't think you could get done or do. You be like, man, because sometimes that certain pressure, because that was pressure, you know, and that was pressure, and then sometimes people either think too much, or some people just react to the moment, and then boom, it works out. And I think when you react more than thinking, you could think later, you could think at other times. There's times where you got to think things out, put out a game plan, write it down on paper, type it out on the computer. But then sometimes your first reaction is most likely your best reaction, and kind of that's what it sounds like there. You're reacting to your situation in life right there. And so
I completely agree, man. I think so
yeah,
much of it is leaning into that pressure when you start to feel it. I've learned now because I get it every once in a while. I'm like, when I feel that pressure kind of pushing back on me, I'm excited because that means you're on the next. It's the next step, and I
right.
think it's so much just taking the next right step. You don't really know one way or the other how it's actually going to turn out. We can't decide left and want to know what's going right. It's kind of just making that next right step.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so, like I said, I clicked on your profile on the Instagram. Oh, I clicked the link tree and I saw, I'm thinking, okay, like I know of what you help us with. You help us here on the Gamers Lounge. You help out with the Green and Go G Lounge with Dorsey Levens and Gilbert Brown and myself. But I knew you probably worked with a few other companies. But when I started scrolling, I was like, woo! I was like, okay, he's doing. I knew you were doing stuff. I know this was your job, but I really saw. So, tell us more about like other companies you work with and how you help them out to make their podcasts or their talk show a little bit better in terms from your point of view, being in the social media space.
Yeah, man. So much of it is just creating that content, creating that level of connectivity. I think one of the beautiful things about social media nowadays is the fact that it gives you that extra step closer to your favorite host or your favorite athlete. And I'm just
Hmm.
impressed about how much athletes have really taken full advantage of that, both in the esports space, but also on the professional level. I love seeing all these new podcasts start to develop, and
Hmm.
it gives you behind the scenes. I think, honestly, in Wisconsin, we get spoiled because we have our favorite players. I mean, we're one of the few pro teams that makes our head coach go on live TV every week to talk about the game.
A
Talk to
hundred
Larry
percent.
yeah, talk to Larry McCarron and learn that's something is unheard of when I lived in Atlanta. People were like, what do you mean your coach goes on like public television to
Right.
talk about the week's game? And so I think podcasts kind of provide that same thing to obviously a larger audience where you can really share those what the players are thinking if they were,
Hmm.
at the game, during the game, or if they were alumni like you guys, man. Hearing you guys share those stories. I mean, I'm laughing so hard I'm nearly crying when I'm editing because either giving Gilbert a hard time or Gilbert's putting something on himself.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that because you brought that. You text me that one time when you text me the drive information. Yeah, he does it to himself because he is with us as he is like we were still playing in the locker room. So, like I mentioned, Dorsey's been around with him longer. I mentioned this last week, and they were teammates first before I pulled up. I was a young buck, and Dorsey goes in on him so hard. So what about speaking of that? So what about the other shows that you curate, you make clips for and edit? There or is there any other interaction like what you get with us?
No, not quite, man, not quite. A lot of times it's cutting up video for them, or creating graphics and things like that. Those have been primarily with the shows or with the videos they're doing. It's for me. This has been the most. These have been the most two exciting ones for me.
Right.
The other ones have been great. It's again honing that craft and learning new ways to edit, new challenges that arise. For example, going through audio when audio isn't exactly
Okay.
there, I can jump in and I save the audio files locally, which means I'll always have the clean cut audio. So it
Mhm.
makes it editing a little easier. So it's with those, it's been fun learning as I go. I think it's
Mhm.
again making those next right steps, seeing what might work, what doesn't work, and just continue to kind of move on from there each time.
Right, right. So, have you and I think you might have mentioned it. Have you taught or done a class on some of what you do?
So I've been fortunate enough to do quite a few interviews, a lot
Okay.
more in the history space, the
Right.
museum space. I've done everything from the New York Times to ESPN to CNN, talking about the history of football. Um,
Gotcha.
the next chapter has kind of been. I was fortunate to guest lecture a couple classes at Georgia Tech
Oh,
on just
nice.
museums and kind of how you can potentially create careers out of it. And of course, I guess a little bit combining your passions of sports and history and really making it work is one of those exciting things. I think people, especially for example, like a LinkedIn, you see all the things you've done in order to get to where you are.
Right.
With them, a lot of times I shared, okay, well, at one point I worked at a daycare in grad school, learning how to
Yeah.
change diapers when I was 25.
You got to do what you got to do.
You do a little bit of everything. I worked second shift, cleaning bathrooms while I had a full time job putting up gas station posters in the middle of the city. And I think sharing those experiences has been one of those incredible, I think, lessons for me and for others. But I'm really excited because I'm starting to get into the talking about my expertise in the social media space as well.
Right. Yeah, I've seen you do that on LinkedIn, a couple of videos, and on Instagram too. Because the space that you're in, obviously, and I tell, and I've learned this on my own that I'm like, man, I saw when I started streaming in 2016 how learning the process of being a content creator, of getting your logo, your your brand out there, and I was like, okay, I knew right away, okay, I'm gotta get savvy at this posting stuff. Posting at that time, it was no TikTok. It might have, I know it was like Vine was around, but then Facebook, Twitter, Instagram was there, and so it just was like it's another little thing you got to learn, just like any other thing, like being in my world of football, where as a running back you learn, okay, you already know how to hold on to the ball. Now you got to learn how to catch the ball at the backfield, or you got to learn how to pick up the blitz, or you got to learn how to read a defense pre-snap, all that stuff. So just having the tools to do that, obviously for a content creator, and what I love about it when I first got into streaming, was that being a content creator, it really teaches you your the discipline and the hard work, like you mentioned, that it takes to be just, I say between successful or just being noticed. Because when you put in consistent work out there, then people will take notice, and people will, reach out to you, ask questions, or say, hey, can you come on the show, or can you help me with this? And I know you being a fan, you saw our show and reached out to me, and so that was just something where I'm like, man, this is a big help right here, So that's why right away, all the time, I'm like thanking you and appreciating you, because I know the work that goes into that. Because I even know you help us with making the clips, they still got to get posted. So I'm posting them, I'm getting them out there to everybody. I believe Dorsey does it too, and John and Notorious Afro, that's part of the gaming lounge here. We all get the stuff out there, because that's the hard. Sometimes, it's the time in the day that we don't have, and you help out with that. So, man, like I said, I greatly appreciate you. I say, for anybody in the chat, anybody listening in and watching, what would be some of your, I say, words of knowledge and information for them to say, hey, this is what you could do. This is a job, but this is how you would get good at it, to become a career, to make it a career. What would you tell somebody, a young person?
Just start.
Mm.
Don't worry about all the equipment, all of that, because I feel like it's that analysis paralysis. You're like, I need the
Mm.
best mic, I need the best camera, I need the best light. Just start. I mean, we all have a phone. That thing is so powerful that most presidents didn't even have that kind of technology. So
Right.
so much of it is just starting. And my biggest thing is networking, man. It is such a game changer, to level up in whatever career you might have. So, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, most people are always willing to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Find a way to provide value. Don't go in for the ask instantly, because
Oh yeah.
those people on LinkedIn get left on in the LinkedIn purgatory, where I'm not really going to bother responding them because they just asked me to join their mastermind course and maybe spelt my name wrong or something like that. So it's finding ways to provide value to whoever you're trying to get to, getting closer to people that you want to become. If you're interested in museums, reach out to museum people and ask, hey, if I'm in the area, could I follow you around for a day?
Mm.
Um, just finding ways to really learn. While school's great,
Yep.
I think that real life experience is super important for just about any kind of field you might want to go into.
Got it. Got it. And I saw you put some information in the run of show. You got some questions for me. You want to
Yes,
throw
yes, I
at
do.
you.
Yes,
So I'm ready for that. So let me put this tab up here. I'm like, oh, I like answering questions. I've been doing that for so long, 30, I would say a very long time. for years. For years.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.